You have chosen your group stage results, your round of 16 results, and the quarterfinals, but who will progress to the grand finale of Eurovision Knockout 2025? Are you ready to find out the semi-final results? Roll titles. Good afternoon, evening, everybody. My name is Jamie Dew and welcome back to a brand new video. And in this particular video for this particular YouTube channel, we're going to be delving into the semi-final results of Eurovision Knockout 2025 and see which one of the 4 remaining countries will be progressing to, well, first of all being the losers of the 3rd place playoff, sadly, and of course the winners of the semi-finals progressing to the grand finale, where of course your votes have been deciding these particular outcomes. And my goodness me, you have voted once again highly for both semi-finals. Thank you ever so much, so every single one of you. Men, women, transgenders, gays, whatever. And listen, as long as you all bleed the same colour and got the same body parts, I don't care, you know? But before we delve into the semi-final results, I would of course encourage you guys as always to subscribe to my Eurovision YouTube channel, because I've been reacting to all 37 participating countries this year, done some countdowns, need to do one more countdown because of course the rehearsals are underway! It's of course well into that time again, but yeah, I will do one more countdown at some point. Signifying my current top at the moment before the, technically before the rehearsals are done, but otherwise, thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. I love you all, thank you. Otherwise, without any further ado, it's now time to delve into the semi-final result of Eurovision Knockout 2025. Here we go. Okay, we've got the little graphic up there now. It is time for the semi-final stages, but of course, whilst we go through the semi-final results, I would of course give you guys a quick reminder on how these countries got to the semi-finals in the first place, and then I will dive into the results just to keep a little bit of suspense, you know, just want to build up the tension, you know, get paid by the second. And without any further ado, well, quickly let's remind ourselves before we do that of how these countries got here in the first place. So from the quarterfinal stages, they were of course from the round of 16 as a result, but from here, from the quarterfinals, we had Germany, Malta, Austria, Finland, Australia, Norway, and Greece and Sweden. Then we had Malta, Malta versus Austria in the first semi-final, and Norway versus Sweden, the Battle of Scandinavia in the second semi-final. So it's going to be certainly tension, that's for sure. But remember, the winners of this progress to the straight to the grand final. But because I want to do a full list of all the countries this year, there will be a 3rd place playoff for you to decide as well. So without any further ado, let's dive into the semi-final results. And first up, it is Malta versus Austria. Quick reminder for Malta, it is of course serving bleep by Mariana Kante versus Austria with JJ and Wasted Love. 2 fairly fan favourites. Malta of course gained a little bit of momentum and then sort of died down a little bit since then, ever since it was released, whereas Austria has just been on a wave of fandom, especially with his amazing vocals, I must admit. But let's have a quick reminder of how we got here in the first place. For Malta, they topped their group with relative ease. There was, of course, the slight tinge of Albania almost upsetting the odds, but they still topped the group with 35% of your results from that respective group and that respective pair of voting, ahead of also of the United Kingdom with 18% and Lithuania with 16%. And with Austria, they also topped their group, but a bit more convincing this time with 43% of the vote compared to the rest of the countries who were effectively battling for the remaining places. Latvia just squeaked into 2nd place with 24%. Switzerland, the hosts, bow out with 22%, and Cyprus were unfortunately bottom with 11% from this group. With Malta, they won their respective round of 16 tie against Iceland in fairly close fashion by 56 to 44%. There's a little bit of a vibe for the vibe of Iceland, but nevertheless, the cunt was going through to the quarters. But with Austria, it was a lot more convincing in their round of 16 tie against Italy with Volevo Essere un Duo for Lucio Corsi, 75 to 25% compared to that one. For the quarterfinal stages of Malta versus Germany, it was a lot more convincing. They ballalared them out of there in the quarterfinals. It was an overwhelming victory in the end for Malta and eased through to the semi-finals. Whereas with Austria, though, it was a lot closer affair in the quarterfinals, just beating out a bit of Ich komme by Erika Wickman, 52 to 48%. It was way closer than you imagined. They kept chopping and changing, but in the end, JJ got through to the semis. Which leads us roundly back to here. So which of our two first semi-finalists will be progressing to the grand final? Well, without any further ado, the winner of this semi-final with 57% of your votes was Austria. JJ with the song Wasted Love progresses to the grand final. Honestly, they say this could be a jury bait. I think this is more of a televote bait. All of a sudden, you fans are loving this in your droves. It beat out Miriana Conte and serving by Malta with 57 to 43% of the vote, which means Malta will be progressing to the third place playoff, whilst Austria are heading to the grand final. Right, who's going to be joining Austria in the grand final then? Right, it is time to find that out right now as we go to the second semi-final, which is the Battle of the Scandinavians. Norway with Karl Alexandra with Leiter versus Sweden, which is Kai with Bada Bastu. And, well, let's just again remind ourselves on how we got here in the first place. With Norway, it came to them virtually dominating their Group F group with 41% of the vote compared to second place for Poland with Gaia at 22%, then Spain and Luxembourg, but both sharing 18% of the vote, third and fourth respectively. I will sort that out at a later date in terms of the ties, if you like, but nevertheless, we'll sort that out. But Sweden had a much more dominating affair against Israel, Ireland, and Montenegro. 63% of the vote for that particular group. It was just pure domination for the powerhouse that is Sweden. Certainly good for this time around, that's for sure. For Norway, though, they managed to get a bit more of a dominating affair in their round of 16 tie against Latvia, 70% to 30% against Tautimatus and Berman-Laini. For Sweden, though, they were possibly fairly dominating, but not that convincing. It wasn't quite 2/3, but 65 to 35 against Czechia in the round of 16, which was Adonis with Kiss Kiss Goodbye. For Norway, though, they were not as convincing this time around against Australia in their quarter-final victory, 61% to 39% against Australia, which was, of course, Gojo with Milkshake Man. But Sweden was a little bit more convincing, a little bit more landslidey, 66 to 34 against Greece, which was Astera Mata by Claudia. So that leads us nicely back round here. That one was a little bit more of a quick recap because I kind of wanted to get on with things, because I do have to announce this one. So who will be progressing to the grand final or to the third place playoff respectively, if you're a winner or a loser, unfortunately. So without any further ado, the winner of this second semi-final with 67% of the vote, very convincing, 2/3 of the votes, and that was Sweden by a landslide almost. Barabada Bastu goes through to the grand final to face Austria in the grand final, which means Norway progresses to the third place playoff, 67 to 33. This second semi-final wasn't even close compared to the first one. Barabada Bastu is loved by a lot of you, even though Lighter is a very good song. I do have to admit, it's a kind of a grow on me, but I love the fact that you guys want Sweden in the final, and I'm so glad you do, because it is my favourite this year. So, we have our third place playoff and our grand final. Now, you already know Malta and Norway will be progressing to the third place playoff. I should have popped that on the graphic, but I didn't have time. But I can remind you very quickly that it is Austria versus Sweden in the grand final. That's going to be a good one for your vote indeed. And without any further ado, first of all, not quite voting in the grand finals yet. You're going to be voting in the third place playoff, which will be out by the time this video goes out. So without any further ado, get voting! And that about does it for this particular video on the semi-final results of the Eurovision Knockout 2025. And thank you ever so much for watching. You are legends. And without any further ado, I'll be ending the video here. But of course, if you haven't already subscribed, get subscribing right now, because I know you want to be utilising my Eurovision juicy goodness. And of course, smash the like button for good measure. And of course, ring the bell to get notified about my latest videos. Catch you again in the next one. Bye bye, everybody. Bye bye.